Kalkadosh Boker or Masechet Sanhedrin Daf Amud Aleph 31a1. We are starting, right? And we said like this: Nahardayam. Narda come and they want to say the following: Afilu echad omer maneh shachor veechad omer maneh lavan mitztarfim. According to Shtat Nardai, even if you're going to have that one person comes and he says maneh shachor, and the other one comes and he says maneh lavan, he says still mitztarfim. It's going to be mitztaref, one ed with another ed. Okay, that means even though they came and they had a contradiction, right? It's still going to be mitztaref. Okay, so he says kiman. Who does that go like? So he says, like, who does that go like? It says, yeah? He says, Eimar de Shamatle, right? He comes and he says this. He says, right? When do we say these words? You could say these words only if it's going to be, right? That only if they're not going to be machish one to another. You remember we were talking about one person testified on Sunday and one person on Monday. But as long as they don't go against each other, so then yeah, it makes sense, right? But if they go against each other, whoever told you that they could combine, meaning whoever told you that they could combine from a Sunday to a Monday, remember 2 different days, if they contradict each other, obviously not. Ela, but rather, hu de'amar ki aitana. Okay, please, yeah, we have a shiur, right? Hu de'amar ki aitana. We have this Tana, right? The Tanya was learned to the Braita. Amar Shimon Lazar says Shimon Lazar. לא נחלקו בית שמאי ובית הלל על שתי קטעי עדים שאחת אומרת, right, 200 ואחת אומרת מנה, שיש בכלל 200 מנה, right? There's not going to be a מחלוקת between בית שמאי ובית הלל on 2 different groups of עדים, that one of them says that it's going to be 200, and one of them says it's going to be mane, right? So therefore, we're going to say, right, that what? That even though, right, that one of them is saying 100 zuz that he's chayav, and the other one is saying 200 zuz, right, it's still going to be kosher. Bichlal 200 mane, meaning that within 200 you still have the 100. So then what is the machlokah between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel? Al kat achat shebet Shammai, on one kat, that you have one of the edim saying one thing, and meaning like this: if you have 2 groups of witnesses, one group of witnesses saying 200 zuz, one group of witnesses saying 100 zuz, is that beseder? There's no machlokah. It's okay. But if you have the same group of witnesses, right? There's only 2 witnesses. And one of them says 100. And one of them says 200. That's when it says, Bet Shammai omrim nechleku edutan. Says Bet Shammai, there's a machloket within their edutin themselves, and therefore in krum. You don't have a testimony. Aval Bet Hillel omrim, Bet Hillel comes and he says, Yesh bichlal, matay maneh. What? That's what Bet Hillel just says. Bet Hillel says, Yesh bichlal matay maneh. Right? And therefore we do accept the testimony. So according to Shitat Rabbi Shimon Lazar, Bet Hillel machshirim edut, even of 2 different people, meaning within the same group of edut, right? That they're coming and they're arguing whether it's going to be 100 or 200, and you're going to accept it. Even though there's a chasha to do with the gufa edut, we're still going to accept it. Okay? So that's what comes out. This is going to be a machloke between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel to do with in the same group of witnesses. Okay, באותם עדות של, right, באותה עדות של העדים. אחד אומר חבית של יין ואחד אומר חבית של שמן. Imagine right now, before we were talking about 100 and 200. What happens if right now, what happens is that there's going to be a chasha between the 2 edim. One ed says it was a barrel of wine. And the other one says it's a barrel of oil. So, there was a story that came in front of Rabbi. Right, chavita de chamra. So he went and he said you have to pay the chavit, right, of wine. Migu chavita de mishcha, right, from the chavit of the shemen. That means since the wine is less than oil, so therefore he says, okay, fine, pay the lesser amount. Because mimanav shachat chayav, or ata chayav chavit shel yain, or ata chavit shel shemen. אבל אפילו אם זה באמת זה היה chavit shel yain, אז לפחות תשלם את היין. Meaning he's saying, right? It's ki'ilu, the same thing about the bichlal matay maneh. That's what we want to think, right? Ki'ilu, I come and I say, you're obligated me $10. He comes and he says $12. So even though it's ki'ilu, that it's 2 different testimonies, I'm saying yain, you're saying shemen, but minimum it's the $10. So therefore, you have 2 witnesses that he's chayav $10. Kiman, so who does that go like? Like Shimon ben Lazar. Eimar damar Shimon ben Lazar. When does Shimon ben Lazar say that? When you have bichlal matay maneh, ki I gavna miyama, but he doesn't say in our case. Meaning in the case of money, and that's why I translated it to dollars, that I said $10 and $12, it's the same thing. I'm just adding in a little bit more. So instead of $10, I'm telling you it's 12. Instead of 100, I'm saying 200. Yeah. Here, though, we're talking about two completely different heftzas. One is a barrel of wine, and one is a barrel of oil. So whoever said that, he said such a thing. So answers the Gemara, you're right. Lo tzicha ledameh. We were only talking about the value. We weren't talking about the actual barrel of wine or oil. Because if it was a barrel of wine or oil, ulai bemet, eduta chasha, right? It's two different testimonies. They're arguing each other. Batla. Yeah, completely. It's going to be batel. But you're right. We're talking about dameh. Dameh is damim. What is damim? A kesef. So we're talking about the value, the shovi of a chavit shel yain and the shovi of a chavit shel shemen. Okay? Fine. Next case. Echad omer b'diuta elyona ve'echad omer b'diuta atachtona. Imagine right now, one of them comes and he says he lent him money on the upper floor, on the second floor. Another one says on the lower floor. Amar bihanina says the bihanina. Maaseh ba lifnei Rabbi. This story actually happened in front of Rabbi. Letziref edutan. And he said, you know what? We're going to combine both of them. Yeah, no problem whatsoever. Okay? Fine. Uminai lech sheyetzeh. Two dots, right? We were right before the Mishnah, where the Mishnah is talking about now. How do we know that when the Dayan, yeah, he comes and he says yes. How do we know, right, that the Dayan is going to come for the Bedin, right? How do you know, what are you supposed to, that means he shouldn't say, listen, I was mizakeh otcha, right? Meaning that, listen, I really voted for you, right? That happens all the time, by the way. This concept, it doesn't have to be with Dayanim and Bedin. This could happen in meetings, right? This could happen in anything that you want. That there's always going to be a wise guy that he's going to come out, Bemet, I voted for you. I really wanted you. But what can I do? Everyone else voted against me. Right? They do that all the time. Why? To suck up, right? To butter them up. And really, Bemet, rova pamim is afilu sheker. Right? But chutz mea sheker, even if it was Bemet, right? You have lo telech lachil.
Keep the relations good?
For sure not. For sure not. No, ודאי שלא. אסור לך לשקר. ואסור לך להגיד. Right? You're not supposed to say anything. This is a psak halacha. No, has nothing to do against the person. Yeah? There's nothing to do against the person. Okay? So, Tana Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita. Minay lech sheyetzeh lo yomar hareni mezakeh v'chaverai mechayvin aval ma e'eseh shechaverai rabu alai. How do we know that when you have a dayan coming out of the bedin, how do we know that lo yomar, that he shouldn't say hareni mezakeh, right? V'chaverai mechayvin. I was the one that was mezakeh. My friends were the ones that were mechayev. Aval ma e'eseh, but what can I do? My friends were the majority. Tamul omar lo telech rachil be'amecha. Right? And it also says, so it's two different concepts. It's a concept called rechilut, but that's rechilut. Imagine right now, I come out of the Bedin, right? And I say, listen, I really voted for you. But the other two Dayanim, Rabbi Joe and Rabbi Shmo, right? They were the ones that voted against you. How does the litigant, how does the defendant feel against Rabbi Joe and Rabbi Shmo? Right? He hates him. Why? Because he says, you're the only good guy. You're the only bad ones. So that's called rechilut. Right? Now, that's besides the fact that has nothing to do with you hate or not hate. When they give a psak, has nothing to do with hatred. This is halakha. Right? Well, hatred. This is halakha. You see? Which one? Fine. Let them make a mistake. But it has nothing to do with the hatred. It has nothing to do with the personal concept against them. You understand? So he says, so that's number one, rechilut. And it says, yeah, another problem. You're not supposed to give over the stories. Right? The secrets.
So there's a note here. It says that this is the correct version of the Mishnah. So I think because the Mishnah didn't talk about religious secrets. It is.
Talmida. Kala. There was a Talmid, right? That there was going out a voice on him. The Kale minta ditmar b'midrash. He was being megaleh, the things that were brought down in the Bet Midrash. But after 22 years that it was said it, and therefore it was going to be a problem of lashon hara. Apke, they took him out. Apke Ravami min midrash amar den galer razaya. This person's a megale sod. What does that mean? Certain things a person has to understand, right? That it's wrong. You understand? Certain things are wrong. Mishnah, Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Aleph 31a1 says the Mishnah, Kol zman shemevi raya soteret adin. Right? Anytime that the Baldin is going to bring a raya, which is going to come and prove his point. Right? And that means even if afterwards they came, that means they already gave the verdict. They already went in the paskint. Right? That's what the Mishnah is saying. The Mizeh came and they paskin. And then you come and you bring a raya, soter et adin. You're allowed to come and you're allowed to be soter the din of the psak of the bedin, right? And they're going to obligate the other way around. Why? Because it's new evidence, right? It's clearly new evidence that came to light. Amar lo, he says, kol rayot sheyesh lecha, right? But if they told him any proofs that you have to bring until now for 30 days, matzah b'tok 30 yom soter. So then they give him a time limit. Meaning there is a statute of limitations, I think it's called, right? But it's not really on that, but it's many times, meaning that certain things, right, you have a certain amount of time to do whatever it is. So you have 30 days. So soter. What? Le'achar 30 yom, if it's going to be after 30 days, eno soter, right? It's not going to be soter. Okay? So now he says like this. Amar Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, says Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, מה יעשה זה שלא מצא בתוך 30 ומצא לאחר 30? Okay, but what's going to happen? He didn't find it within the 30 days. He only found it after the 30 days. So what are you going to do now? So Amar lo, he said, right? He says, but again, there's no answer, right? We left off with that. We left off with the question. Okay. Says the next part of the Mishnah. Amar lo avedim. Right? Imagine Bedin come and they tell the Baldin, go bring witnesses. V'amar, and he says, Eli edim, I don't have witnesses. Amar, he told them, right? They told him, Haver raya, bring a proof. V'amar, he says, Eli raya, I don't have it. Ulachar zman avi raya, right? Umatzadim, all of a sudden, whoops, he found the din. Sounds good, no? He found the din. He found the raya. Hadeze no klum, it's nothing. Right? Why is it nothing? Since he said at the beginning that he didn't have it, obviously, zotomer ma wasa, uziefota. Or shilem medim, right? Basically, that's he did it. Amari mishmul says Rashbag, Maya says that shelo haya yodea sheyesh lo adim matzah adim, haya yodea shelo Maria says Rashbag the same thing again. What do you want from this guy? Misken, right? He thought that he had no adim. All of a sudden he said, you guys saw? Perfect, you're my witnesses. I didn't realize I had a document. It's true, I did. I forgot that I wrote it. Ra'ah shemitchayev badin. What happens if he sees that he's going to become chayav badin? And he says, Kirvu ploni ploni v'yuduni, or sheotzi raya mitach pudato, the same thing. All of a sudden, he comes and he brings two people, two witnesses. Or he brings a raya, also the same thing, is enoklum. Right? Here it's nothing. So here, even Rashbag is modeh, because since we see, right, that Be'emet, he already knew from the beginning, right, of the edim of the shtar and everything. So he says, and all of a sudden now he's trying to bring it in. Obviously, it was just so that way he should become, right, exempt, right, from the court. Okay, fine. Says the Gemara. Amar Rabba Bravuna. Says the Bravuna. Halacha Rashbag. The halacha is going to be like Rabban Shimon Gamliel. Okay. Amar Bravuna says Bravuna. And halacha kedivrei Chachamim. The halacha is not like Chachamim. So says the Gemara Pshita. It's obviously Kevan Damar halacha Rashbag. Mimela Yadana. Then halacha Chachamim. I don't know. Second. There's two shitot in the Mishnah. It's either the Tanakama, which is Chachamim, or Rashbag. So if you tell me that the halacha is like Rashbag, halacha is not like Chachamim. You don't have to tell me both. So says Gemara, no. I would have thought to say Hanamila lechatchila, but b'diavad shakud dam. I would have thought to say the lechatchila, the bedin should do like him, but b'diavad it's going to be okay. Shapi dam kamashmalan comes teach you ti'avi that if you're going to come and you're going to do it even b'diavad, madrinale. We don't pass him like chachamim, so you bring it back. That means bichlal. That means gam lechatchila v'gam b'diavad. Says the two dots. Amar lo avedim. What happens right now if the bedim come and they tell the baldin, bring a dim? Amar Rashbag comes in Rashbag and says, what's the problem? What? Misken. Well, he wasn't able to find them. So Amar Ravuna, Amar Rabbi Yochanan halacha k'divrei Chachamim. Here the halacha is like Chachamim. Amar Ravuna, Amar Rabbi Yochanan en halacha Rashbag. So says the Gemara the same thing, but now vice versa. Now with the opposite way around. He says, Pshita kevan damar halacha k'divrei Chachamim mila yedin en halacha Rashbag. Hakamashmalan davahi. Right, that in this only in that machloket en halacha Rashbag habekulu, but in all the other places halacha Rashbag. The halacha is going to be like Rashbag. La puke mehad aber b'chad Yochanan kol makom sheshna Rashbag b'mishatenu halacha kemoto chutz me'arev v'tzeidan v'raya acharona. Meaning there's a general rule, right? And this is what I told you that at the end of Masechet Berachot there's klalei Talmud, and there's certain general rules. This is just like the halacha is like Rava, right, and not like Abaye chutz miyal kigam. So another general rule is kol makom sheshana Rashbag b'mishnatenu halacha kemoto chutz mi arev tzaidan v'raya acharona. So he comes and he says this: the halacha is like going to be like a rashbag, except for arev, which is going to be a mishnah in kuf ayin dalad mubet Masechet batra, right? To do with a certain get, which is called the get that happened in Saidan, and raya charona, right? Which is going to be the dina charon, which is brought down of the raya of the mishnah. Okay, fine. Hahu yenuka, yeah, there was a story, right, with a child. The tavinu ledina kamed Rav Nachman, right? That there was a yeled echad that tavu ledin in front of Rav Nachman to pay a chov of the father. Elmaleh, he went and he said to the yeled, "Itlach sade, do you have witnesses?" Elmaleh, he said, "No." Ilecha raya, no. Elmaleh, lo. Right? So what happened? So chivur Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman comes and says, "Listen, you have to pay." Have a kabach. He started crying. Shemu anachin. People heard. Amru le anan yadim. We know everything about your father. Amar Rav Nachman beha filu rabana modeh tiyenuka b'mile davu al lo yada. Here, it's going to be okay. Why? Because a child doesn't know what's going on in his father's business. And therefore, since the child does not know what happens in the business, it could be that he thought that there was no witnesses. But really, there were witnesses. And therefore, there's not going to be a problem. Okay? Another story. There was a story of a woman. That there was a shtar chov coming from her hand, right? That she believed, right? The love and the malve to watch it. Amrale. So she told them, she says, I know that it was paid back. Rav Nachman actually, he believed her, that it was paid back. So Amale Rav Nachman, come on, who does that go like? Like Rabbi, right? The what? That the chov which is written is going to be given over with mesira to the koneh. So ever since it was given to the woman, right? She actually acquired it according to Rabbi, and therefore it's like hers. And therefore she's going to be believed to say that it's parua, right? That's the question. The lacha is not like Rabbi. So Elmaleh comes and he says, Shane hacha, it's different over here. The baya kalte, that if she wanted, she could have burnt it. She could have burnt the shtar, right? So since we didn't see the shtar, unless it was, meaning she was the one that showed it. So therefore, she's the one that, she could have just burnt it, burned the evidence, and then there's nothing. But rather, the fact that she comes in and she does have it, but she says, but it was already paid up, we believe her, right? Another nusach, ikadamli, there are those that say, we're going to flip it now. Lohem Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman did not believe her. Okay, remember, whenever it's an ika de amre, right? No od zvara, od girsa basipur, right? That means there's another version of what went on. So according to this version, it's b'diuk hayafuch. Rav Nachman lo eminota. Rav Nachman lo emineta isha, right? Lo emin Rav Nachman. So Elmaleh Rav Nachman veha ibaya, right? Kalte. So now the exact same svara all the way around. Lamed Aleph from Bet 31b. He said she could have just burnt it. So answers of Nachman came the itchaze bevedina. Once there's the chazakah that this shtar was nitkayem bevedin, ibaye kalte lo amrina. We don't say the svara that she could have burnt it. So eitvei Rav Nachman. So comes Rav and tells Rav Nachman, simpon sheyesh alav edim. When you have a receipt that is signed edim, yitkayem bechotamav, you should just verify the signatures. En alav edim. If he does not have edim, yotze mitachad shlish, and it comes to a third party, or she yotze achar chitum sharot, or came after the signing of the documents. Kasher, it's going to be kosher. So he says, alma shlish mehemen. If you see from here, the shlish is going to be believed. So tiyufta de Rav Nachman, you're right. This is going to be a question against Rav Nachman. The really behemet, it's a question against Rav Nachman. The really behemet, she should have been believed, right? So this is a tiyufta against him. The beforehand, right, when he actually believed her. So that's the way that we paskin, right? And therefore, it wasn't a question against him. It was true. Yeah, she could have burnt it. Here, when we flipped it, that he didn't believe her, now we have a tiyufta against him that we actually asked that why is it bemet that she's not going to believe? So Kiyata Rav Dimi Amar Rav Yochanan. So when Rav Dimi came right to Bavel, he said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, le'olam mevi re'aya v'soter. Right? Remember, he comes and he says, right? Really bemet, you bring a re'aya and you're going to be soter. Right? Ad shistatem tanotav, until the person comes and he says from his own, en li yadim or en li raya. Yomar kirvu ploni v'yeduni. And then afterwards he comes and he says, no, breathing. Meaning, if it's just us doing that, that's something else. But if he's coming and saying, he has to actually say, I have nothing else. That's what he has to say. So says the Gemara, 1 second, I don't understand you. Haguf kasha, that's a stira in itself. You just said yistatem tanotav, so that's going according to Shtat Rabbanan. And then you said kirvu ishploni uploni ve'oduni. That's going according to Rashbag. Atal Rashbag. So what's going on? Do we pass like Rashbag or Rabbanan? You remember in the Mishnah we had a machloket Rashbag and Rabbanan. V'chiteim, and if you're going to tell me now, Kula Rashbag, the entire thing is Rashbag. Ufarushe kamefarish, and they're explaining it. What does it mean then? Ad shisatem tanotav. Ad shiomar kirvu klo miplem vidinu. V'hamar v'chalam Rabbi Yochanan kol makom sheshna Rashbag v'nishdan lecha kelmoto, except for Erev Tzidgav v'tzadanu raya acharona. Okay, which is basically the raya acharona, bringing the raya. So you see that we don't pass like Rashbag in that. Elakiyat Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda, but when Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda came and he said the name of Yochanan, right? Leolam mevi raya v'soter et shten tanotav v'yomru lo havedim v'omer en li edim havi raya v'omer en li raya. Meaning only in that case do we say that it does not exist anymore. Bring a raya, but they asked him, bring an edim. I don't have any edim. Bring a raya. I don't have any raya. ברגע שהוא אומר, נכון, אין לי. אחרי 5 דקות כשהוא חוזר, יש לי, זהו. למה? monkey business. אבל באו עדים ממדינת הים השותת עסקיה של אביו מופקדת ביד אחר, הרי זה מביא ראיה וסותר. But what happens all of a sudden if he had עדים that they came from מדינת הים? Or he comes and he said that there was a sexual order of Aviv, that there were shtarot, and they were biyad mishu acher. That means somebody else had the bag with all the shtarot and all the paperwork. So he could bring a raya and he could be soter. Why? Because what do you want from for the person? He didn't know. So Kiyata Rav Dimi Amar Rav Yochanan. So when he came, one second. So he says Kiyata Rav Dimi Amar Rav Yochanan. When he comes and he says Rav Dimi comes and he says the name of Yochanan. Hatokef et chavero badin. When you have a baldin that he's trying to make him a lot of problems. So because of that, right, he wants to go with the kibbutz Talmidei Chachamim in order that he should be embarrassed. Echad omer nidon kan. Echad omer nelech lemakom avad. One of them says, you know what, let's go to this bedin, right, in the city. And the other one says, no, we want to go to where the Talmidei Chachamim are. We're going to force him to come, right, to a certain place, right? So he says, Amar lefanav Rabbi Elazar, says in front of him Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi, right? He says, Mi shenoshe bechavero maneh, yotzi maneh ala maneh. He says, I don't understand you. If you right now borrowed 100, you're going to take out 100 on another 100? We're going to force him to judge in the city. Why are you going to go to another place? If you have a bedin in the city, judge him in the city. It was also stated Amar of Safra, Shnaim shenitatzmu bedin, when you have 2 of them, right, which were actually, they were very, very harsh in the deen. Echad omer nidon kan, ve'echad omer nilech b'makom avad. One of them says we're going to judge here. The other one says we're going to go to the place of the vad. Kofino ta oto v'dam beiro. We're going to come and we're going to judge in the city. Ve'im utzrach davar lishol, and if you need something to ask, kotvin v'shulchin. They're going to write the bedin. They're going to send it. V'imamar kitvu utnu li me'eze tam dantuni, kotvin v'notnin lo. Now, if you're going to say, write it down and give it, so therefore they're going to write it down, they're going to give it. And that's why he comes and he says, one second. And that's why he comes and he says, right, that there's going to be a difference between the 2 different cases, right? When Bedin are going to obligate to actually come and they're going to write it. And the Yevama is the exact same thing. Meaning she has to go after the Yavam, to the Bedin of his city, in order to permit her for Chalitza. Right? So Asa Gimarad, come until when? Even from Tveria to Tzipori. Right, which is going to be, that means even though Tveria is bigger than Tzipori, she would still have to go right there. Why? Because at the end of the day, which one? No, but that's what we're trying to say. We're trying to say, even if she has to go, right, to another place, right, even though the yeshiva of Tveria is greater than Tzipori, and therefore the betin of Tveria is more, she would still have to go to Tzipori. We're not talking about Melchak. Because of that's his city. Once the person is going to his city, we're not
his own city come.
Exactly. That means even though it's a smaller city, you still have to go to his city because we're going to him, to the place where he is. Just like over here, we just obligated him to be judging in their city. So to the Yavam has to go up to the Yavam to his city, even if it's going to be a smaller city. Now he says, how do we know that? Amar Rav Kahana, what is the pasuk? Vekareu lo ziknei iro velo ziknei ira. Right? We're going to go and we're going to say, Karulu Ziknei Iro. It's Iro, his city, not her city. So Amaramim comes and he says, right? Ilchata kofino tov yelech b'makom avad. Halakha is that we actually force him to go right to the makom avad. Right? He says, Amar Rashi Mimah v'hamar v'lezar kofino tov v'dam b'iro. So that's what the exact opposite. He says no. Hanemile, one of these words, Hecha dekama le loveh le malveh. Right? When the loveh is coming and telling it to the malveh. Right, and therefore we cannot be mechayev the malveh, right? Leotzi otzaot in order to come and go somewhere else. Aval malveh eved loveh leish malveh, meaning the lender has the upper hands. because the lender is the one that decides where to go, right? He is the other person is considered his eved. So therefore, the malveh could come and decide, do I want in my city or do I want somewhere else? But in the other case, no. If not, then we're going to say the other way around. So the bedin of the Tveria, they sent to Marukva. Lidziv li lei kevar bitya. Shelam. Right? What does that mean? Somebody that has the or panim, like the son of Bitya. Who's the son of Bitya? Bitya. Bitya. כן, כך כתוב, בדברי הימים. ביתיה.
גם פה רשום ביתיה, אבל אנחנו...
לא, זה לא טעות.
בתיה, חשבנו זה מהגן, אמרנו.
כן, בדיוק. בגן הם אומרים בתיה, אבל באמת זה לא בתיה, זה ביתיה. ככה קוראים לה. זה השם שלה. כן? So he comes and he says like this. So he says, the one that has the face shining like Moshe Rabbeinu, which is again the son of Bitya. Shalom, Shalom. Ukvan Abavli, Kaval, Kadmana. Started screaming. Right? Yirmiyah Achi Evir Alay et Derech. Right? So he comes and he says this. He comes and he was Me'abed the Derech. Right? Which means Sisani. Right? Ve'amrulo, so they went and they told Yirmiyah, right? Which is in Bavel. Right? Asi'uhu v'yireh panenu b'Tveria. Force us to come to Tveria to judge. It says the Gemara, I don't understand. Haguf Kasha, it's a question. Amarta, you just said, Imrulo, right? Lefayes etachim. Right? They told him, appease him. Alma, Dainuatun. That they wanted to judge him, right? In Bavel. And now it's you, v'yireh panav b'Tveria, Alma Shadruacha, they sent him over there. So what's going on? Elachi Kamra, this is what they said. Imrula, they told them to be mitvayesim echav. Dainu atun, right? Dinu otam oto b'Bavel. Yitzai, if he's going to listen, v'ilo, and if not, hesiu v'yireh panav b'Tveria. So then go to Tveria and then judge him there. Vashi Amar dine knasot ava was knasot, and in Bavel they were not dayan, they were not dayanim on dine knasot. That the shalchu leachi. So why did they send him like that? In order to give kavod to Marukva. Dran alach zebore. Okay.
What a beautiful